Peter Brock had designed this little box that sat under the car, under the bonnet of your car, and it energised something, didn't it? And the car went back and polariser. That's what it was. Well, Peter Brock rang me up and said, "Dick, you've got to stop the Australian skeptics from presenting me with a bench Buddhawood." And I said, "Peter," I said, "they're a mob of nutters. I wouldn't have any control over them at all." Now, seeing isn't believing. It's interesting because when I started Australian Geographic, we ran an article on the Tasmanian tiger. And it was going to be a sceptical article. Many people believe the Tasmanian tiger still exists because it's seen in Tasmania. So what I got my researchers to do, I said, "I want you to do a map of Tasmania showing all the sightings." Well, not only did they do that, they said, "Dick," and there must have been 150, every little bit of Tasmania had sightings everywhere, but then they did a map of Australia with all the sightings on mainland Australia. We had Tasmanian tigers all across. And it really taught me something. Most of these sightings were people who'd seen it and believed it, because they think if you see it and it's right, it looks what it is, you can believe it. That's, of course, not true. I remember, a little bit after that, I was searching for the Kookaburra aircraft in the Tanami Desert. The Kookaburra was a small monoplane that had gone to search for Kingston Street in 1929. It was fourth down. The two pilots lost their lives from thirst. The bodies were recovered and brought back. The plane was left, and it went missing for nearly 50 years. 48 years later, the Northern Territory surveyor was crossing the Tanami Desert, and he was fixing one of his punctures, and he looked and he saw a spoke wheel sticking out of a gidgee bush, and he raced over to it and realised it was a plane and looked around for bodies. And when he finally got back to Darwin, he found that they looked up the engine number, and that was the lost Kookaburra. And so lots of people searched for it. After 16 expeditions, I organised an expedition from Australia, from Sydney. And I went up into the Tanami Desert just south of Darwin. Now, I had a photo with me of the Kookaburra when it was found by the Northern Territory surveyor, which was sort of a spoke wheel, a bit of a skeleton and everything. I'd seen that. Well, I'm flying along in the helicopter. We were flying backwards and forwards. And as we turned the chopper, I saw the Kookaburra. I saw the spoked wheel, everything, identical. I said, "I've seen it, we found it." We swung around again, it wasn't there. There was a sort of a bit of a stump, which wasn't really very like it at all. So we went back to camp and I said, "Well, I just don't understand it. I saw it absolutely." Now, luckily for me, the next year later, we found the Kookaburra miles away from that location. But it shows you what the human brain can do. So always remember, seeing is not believing. Recently, a friend of mine who does a lot of walking up in the Blue Mountains said he saw, what's it called these days, the Blue Mountain cattle? The Lithgow panther, that's it. And when I said, "Well, I don't think you saw it," he said, "Dick, I saw it and it's true." And I said, "Well, I certainly wouldn't believe what I saw." So I think that's very important. Now,